welcome back to BSI Indonesia podcast. Today we have a very special guest from BSI UK, Dr. Nigel Croft and Mr. Michael Mudd, who are currently working on BSI Standards-led Digitalisation Toolkit project in collaboration with UK and Indonesian government. Hi Nigel, hi Michael, how are you?
We're great, thanks very much.
We're very good, thank you.
Welcome to Indonesia and welcome to our studio.
Good.
Thank you for being with us here. Maybe before we start, can you please give introduction about yourself first and what you do in BSI?
Yes, indeed. My name's Nigel Croft. I was born in the north of England, spent much of my life in South America, in Brazil, so I have a Brazilian citizenship, working for BSI as an independent consultant to help with the implementation of this digital access program from the British government and how standards can help to drive that initiative forward. So it's great to be here with you.
Okay, nice to meet you.
Thank you. Yes, Mike Mudd. I was also born in the United Kingdom on the East Coast, towards the south. However, I've worked outside the UK for basically all of my career, 40 years here in Asia, based mainly in Hong Kong, but also in Vietnam and China. I am the same as Nigel in many ways, in that I am an independent consultant on behalf of BSI and UK FCDO, working on the project because I believe that digitization and standards in digitization are very, very important as we move from an analog to a digital world. There must be the basic building blocks and standards in place to ensure interoperability and capacity growth. So it's a pleasure here. Again, not my first visit to Indonesia, but I haven't been for a while. Obviously, pandemic didn't help, but it's great to be back. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, so speaking of digital transformation, Nigel, can you tell us more about BSI Standards-led Digitalisation Toolkit project? What is this toolkit and how did it start?
Yes, indeed. In fact, when we talk about digitalisation, two words come to mind: opportunities and challenges. And we are very, very much aware of the need to take advantage of opportunities. I think standards can help with identifying opportunities, guideline standards, best practice to move the agenda forward, and equally standards to address some of the challenges and the threats imposed because of things like cybersecurity and identity theft and so on. So this program started actually in late 2021 with the publication of a BSI white paper about how standards can help to drive forward the digitalisation initiative. And with the help of the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office of the UK government, BSI put together this white paper to emphasise the role of standards, which is sometimes overlooked by policymakers. And so very, very firmly, the objective of this project is to emphasise the role that standards can take in helping organisations to do things better. That includes, of course, things like certification to ISO IEC 27001 Information Security Management, but it goes way beyond that. It goes towards helping policymakers, for example, to build awareness, helping them to establish the right frameworks in the cybersecurity arena, for example. And so this project, Indonesia, was one of the pilot projects that we started last year, along with Kenya. So this is the second phase of that project, and we're also rolling out the project in 3 additional new countries, which is Nigeria, South Africa, and next week, in fact, I'll be in Brazil again, where we will be taking the lessons learned from what we've learned from Indonesia. It's not just a one-way street, and applying that in those other developing economies, so they too can leverage standards as a basis for their digitalization initiatives.
Okay, so this is very important and timely topic for every country around the world, right? So Mike, can you tell us, can you explain about how can standards support the digital transformation process?
Okay. The main thing about standards are that you start with an equal footing on the parties that are involved in the digitization process. So there's always multiple parties involved. There's government, private sector, there's organizations, there's schools, there's healthcare, there's banks, etc. And the idea of the standards is you start to be able to establish trust. So trust is really one of the key parts of establishing a digitization economy as such, and that's trust first of all within Indonesia, but increasingly connectivity between ASEAN and Indonesia and the rest of the world. Indonesia is a very big country, it's a G20 country, it has a lot of influence, and so connectivity on standards which are proven, that have been put together by consensus. It takes 60 to 70 standards organizations, including BSI and BSN Indonesia, to work on a standard. You know, it's rather like the United Nations. You work towards an agreement and a consensus that this is a great thing to do for the benefit of everybody. Every country in the world is a member, for example, or eligible to be a member of the ISO, which makes the standards. And each country has one vote. So, you know, it's a very democratic process, it's a very equal process, and the objective is to build trust in everything. I mean, we're talking about IT, but you can go back to ISO 9000 itself, one of the basic building blocks of which Nigel is very well familiar with, and that is important as well. So trust, predictability, and the objective of getting two parties to work together, or multi-parties to work together, to move the digital agenda forward.
Yeah.
Basically, that's a quick summary.
Yeah, I see. So building trust and confidence, providing confidence
Yes.
is the cornerstone of digital transformation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And resilience, we should say. You know, the ability to react to changing situations. That's very, very important.
So I will also want to ask about artificial intelligence. So we will soon have AI management system standards called ISO 42001, correct?
That's
Yes.
correct.
Yep. Can you tell us more about that?
Maybe I should go first because
Yes.
within my role in ISO, I am chairman of a group called the Joint Technical Coordination Group for Management System Standards. And that group develops the core of all management system standards, the so-called Annex SL of the ISO directives. And that core means that when ISO 42001 is published, and that will be a matter of weeks from now, it will have the same touch and feel as ISO 9001, as ISO IEC 27001, because the structure is the same. Much of the terminology is the same. It involves looking at context, the context of your organization, your particular organization. It involves defining policy, deploying that policy via objectives. You know, the plan, do, check, act cycle. Putting that into practice, monitoring, assessing, auditing, internal audit, and making corrective actions and continual improvement. So that is one of the great advantages of the ISO suite of management system standards. We can deal with all of those in an integrated way without overlap and without repetition within an organization. So, you know, AI is here to stay. I think there are governance issues surrounding AI. The standard you just mentioned is one of a suite of standards, and that question of, you know, who owns the data? What are the possible infringements of intellectual property rights? All of these issues, we need to balance those and mitigate those risks to take advantage of the immense opportunities that AI can bring us.
Yes.
Mike, you want to add?
Yes, I concur. AI is a transformative technology. In a very similar way, if you go back 300 years to our own country, England, the Industrial Revolution, steam revolutionized manufacturing. Go forward another couple of hundred years, electricity transformed everything we do. And then we come to the age of the microchip itself. these are major steps in technology that affected just about everything everybody does. And AI certainly has that potential and promise. But again, as Nigel mentioned, you've got to look at governance, ethical issues, etc. like this. And this is being seriously looked at by a myriad of organizations, from OECD to G20, G7, the UN, World Economic Forum. Just about everybody on the planet is looking at this from a governance point of view. Again, you know, like nuclear technology has the ability to create energy and very good things, but of course it has the other side, the dark side as well. So to make sure that AI is used for good is the challenge, and you know, the governments and organizations, ISO, BSI, are coming towards the table to address this challenge.
It's very interesting, and very looking forward for these new standards and also the BSI Standards-led Digitalisation Toolkit project.
Mm-hmm.
So before we end this, do you have any message to our listeners you want to share maybe?
I would say standards are a wonderful tool, and you need to choose the right tool to do the job that you want to do. So look for the standards that are most appropriate to help you to be more effective, to be more efficient, to, in this case, pursue your digital journey. Don't just look for a standard and say, I need to find somewhere to apply this standard. Look to your own situation, look to the standards that are available, and pick and choose the ones that are most appropriate. In the digital space, it may be interoperability, if particularly, for example, if you're in healthcare. It may be cybersecurity, it may be personal identity standards. You know, the PIMS, Personal Identity Management System standard, which is based on the Information Security Management System standard. They are all important in the right place and used in the right way. So what I would say is there are all these tools available, use them sensibly.
Honestly, not much to add to that one. I mean, it really is the idea of choosing the right standard as you would choose the right tool for a job. You wouldn't try to bang a nail in the wall with a screwdriver. You'd use a hammer. So therefore, you know, it's a matter of choosing the right standard for what you want to do and at the right level, both as a certification standard and also as a guidance standard. So there's two parts of just about every standard. One is the certified standard that says you are qualified and certified against that standard. The other one shows you how to do it, and that's equally important. So yeah, choose the right tool for the job.
Okay, thank you so much, Nigel. Thank you, Nigel, and thank you so much, Mike, for your sharing. It's very insightful. And for our listeners, if you have any questions, don't feel free to comment and also contact us. And don't forget to like, subscribe to BSI Indonesia podcast. Okay, thank you so much. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks
Thanks very
you.
much.
Thank you so much.